I don my helm, the shield betwixt my warrior persona, the reality of what I must do, and the being who walks the path, the poet, dancer, writer, lover, dreamer, creator, the Eldar that I truly am. For the horrors are beyond what we can usually endure. We feel the sting of life, the heart, play louder than any beings that have ever existed or ever will. I need this. I need this shield, this temporary insanity, the shattering and division of my very soul. For when I am behind the mask, I can allow my blood to run hot, can actuate my hate, my rage, the part of me that will always belong to Calum and chicane. We are beings built for war, a time that has passed. We ruled for so long. None could defeat us, none but ourselves. Now we are the few, the bright lights in a galaxy of evil and ignorance, of hatred and darkness. So we must fight as we have never fought before. But each clash of arms, each moment of glory, is bought with the most precious of coin, our very future. For our people are few, we are waning, we are beset on all sides. By our own hand was our greatness ended. The shame of it, that we now have to dance around the enemies of the mighty Eldari like birds, pecking at their eyes and weak spots, dipping in and out with such alacrity that we cannot be harmed in response. But oh, how I wish I could be a part of one of our armies of old. The pennants flying amongst our massed ranks like a forest, our people resplendent. How we could simply open fire and annihilate entire armies of our foes. We could perform mass charges and face the enemy head on, riding them down in their throngs. Now we pick at them, darting in and out, stinging them like insects, when we should be crushing them beneath our boots. But there is skill here, in this way of war. Are we better warriors now because of our need for care, unable to be reincarnated at a whim? Is our courage more than the heroes of old, our mighty forebears who took the very stars for their own? Who can say? I pass through the clouds and out of my reverie. We descend like a lightning bolt on our foes. Around me are my Craft World kin, each inside one of our gravity-defying engines of Val. A triad are we. A Falcon, a Wave Serpent, and a Prism Cannon. We are the thrice-blessed bird of thunder. We are the claws, beak, and feathers of Falshu. As we strike down, the Prism Cannon shouts its anger into the world through the medium of light. Life-giving, life-taking. As it screams, we see it strike the ungainly blocks of armour stapled together in the ways of the orc, the greenskin filth. We are met with bursts of loud and mostly ineffective fire from them. Like animals, they shout their glee into the airs we punch through, the airs we own. The filth howl like dogs as we bear down on them, for they know we will not engage them in the ways they wish. They are less than fools. Relics of a war they could not win, a time long gone. They should be relegated to that past. But now they teem and infest more of the galaxy than ever before. The Monkey have been an axe. Very axe. As repugnant as the thought may be, we pass this duty to them, the protection of our galaxy, the culling of its threats, the greenskin especially, and they have failed. Thus are we forced to soil our very eyes with their visage again. As we close, the Falcon lets fly with its own darts of power. Its pulse cannon fires and their crude walkers and armour melt and burn. It stoops low and drops off a cadre of our finest, but does not really stop. As moments after the last red and bronze-clad fire warriors is out of its bays, it takes off again. The speed picked up again in seconds. The dragons strike and their lances spit melter waves of pure destruction at the orc gargant. It is not complete. It never will be now. As like a statue of snow, it sinks into itself and collapses into a smoking pool. I dip down and use the shield in front of me to draw the fire from the only remaining threats. The orcs throw their fire at me and my wave serpent. I unleash her own pent-up rage as the shuriken cannon spits slithers of monofilament death towards the greenskins. Many fall decapitated or sliced in two. Many more have limbs severed, yet still try to shoot their loud and clumsy solid-state projectiles at us. They slam into the shield in front of the vehicle, splashes of light and a dull electric thud, the only marking of the efforts to break out of fences. But the shield stands out in front of me, and I need only dodge the larger strikes when I close with their center. I fire the sun cannons, and the knobs become stars before shattering. I slow a touch at the last. I then unleash the serpent's shield. It slams forward like a tsunami, taking all of the remaining greenskins off their feet and burning many to nothing. At that point my own cargo drops from the open ramp, and dire Avengers dance amongst the slowly rising orcs. The Avengers fire, cutting many to death. Their blades wind through the air as the last greenskins are dispatched. But damn me to her embrace. I did not move fast enough. The last of these scum, their vehicle, from out of it fell a single thug, and it lifted its heavy gun in the air and fired 1,000,000 to one shot. An impossibility, but now a reality. The shot flies into the rear of the Falcon as it speeds back to pick up the fire dragons, and it explodes. I am glad that I wear the helm. My heart is closed to the pain. For its pilot, Alsanathan, he was betrothed to my sister. I will weep bitter tears for the bliss that they should have experienced, the children they should have had. Now more than ever, I feel the hand of the god of murder close around my heart. We will continue, despite the pain to come when we remove our helms, despite the loss. We will wipe every last greenskin from this world, in the name of Kayla Mensha Kane. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the important factions, forces, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we take a change from normal, as I could not resist covering a piece of war gear this day. For it is a simple thing to many, as I have heard of them or faced them so often, but they truly are magnificent things. Of course, I can only be speaking of Craftworld Eldar Grav tanks. Sleek and deadly, these weapons of war are some of the most antique in the entire setting. For despite their way of war transforming due to need after the fall, the armory of the Eldar has not altered substantially in millions of years. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, engines of Vol. Gliding over a planet's surface like a shoal of predatory fish, the Grav tanks of the Craft Worlds are a formidable addition to the war hosts. Whether acting as battle tanks, transports, tank destroyers, or assault craft, the sight of these distinctive armoured vehicles skimming over the horizon has filled many enemies of the Asuryani with dread. The Grav tanks the Asuryani call engines of Vol are immaculate beyond the ken of the lesser races. Aeronautical triumphs that combine ethereal grace with a deceptive lethality. Not for them the ground-churning rumble of Imperial tanks, or the oil-drizzling incontinence of the vehicles cobbled together by orc mechanics. Instead, the sleek battlecraft of the Craft Worlds glides through the smoke-filled skies, The nimble Falcon as silent as the deadly fire prism and the giant cobra. The only signs of their passage are the blasted bodies left in their wake. Regardless of type, they mount weaponry capable of breaking open a line of battle. Held aloft by exceptionally advanced anti-gravitic motors, the vehicles of the Eldari are not bound by the laws that limit inferior craft. Their psychoplastic hulls can bear tremendous strain. When combined with hollow fields and auxiliary spirit stones, they become all but indestructible. All Grav tanks are capable of true flight, if only for a short while, but in battle, they swerve above the field at unbelievable speed. Often, an enemy commander has barely registered the presence of a squadron of Asuryani tanks on his flank before they have crippled his armored strength and slid away again into the night. For all their deadliness, the Grav tanks of the Asuryani remain artifacts of true beauty, each a brightly coloured jewel in the arsenal of the craft world, whose world runes emblazon their curving hulls. Fire prisms. Despite its aesthetic qualities, the fire prism sacrifices none of the killing power associated with heavy armour. Its distinctive weapon, the Prism Cannon, is the bane of the heavy battle tanks of the lesser races. This extremely unusual armament uses a two-stage firing process. A medium-magnitude laser is discharged into a massive crystal prism that greatly amplifies the potency of the shot in a fraction of a second. This energy can be discharged in a focused beam, capable of blasting through a tank and out the other side, or dispersed to slay entire squads of enemy infantry. Most unusual of all, sophisticated tracking arrays allow this technological wonder to narrow the field of its prism cannon into a thin lance of light, forming one all-powerful laser beam that can cripple a battle tank with a single shot. Falcons. During the War in Heaven, it was Falshu, consort of the Great Hawk, who retrieved Val's mighty sword Anaris and gave it to the Eldari hero Eldinesh to aid his duel with Cain. This principle of deliverance lies behind the design of the Falcon, the primary battle tank of the Asuryani. As well as mounting a diverse array of potential weapons, it carries a small squad in its transport pod, delivering them to where their prowess is most needed and retrieving them once their mission is complete. The craft world's enemies have learned to fear the Grav tank's sleek silhouette, for if its deadly weapons do not bring about their doom, the Asuryani warriors inside it will. Night Spinners. The Night Spinner is unique amongst artillery vehicles. It does not fire crude explosive shells, or even high-powered blasts, but instead utilizes a far more subtle and elegant means of delivering death from afar. The Night Spinner mounts a Doomweaver atop its sleek chassis, an esoteric weapon that spins great swathes of monofilament wire into a lethal web that is launched high into the air. This substance is incredibly thin, and yet so strong that nothing can stop its inexorable descent. Indeed, the threads are known amongst the Eldari as the Chains of Val, named after the unbreakable bonds of legend. Anyone unfortunate enough to lie beneath the Night Spinner's ghostly web will be shredded by the simple action of gravity drawing the cords gently downwards. A Night Spinner's web will eventually fall to the ground, but, until then, it is a deadly barrier that dismembers anyone who moves through it. At close range, the Night Spinner can even hurl a deadly accurate web directly into the foe's ranks, with brutal and horrific consequences. Wave Serpents. The Wave Serpent is the main troop carrier of a Craft World's army. Protected inside its sleek hull, strike forces can be transported in safety to any part of the battlefield. The Wave Serpent's energy field projectors generate a rippling bow wave of force at the front of the vehicle that disrupts incoming fire, protecting the vehicle while it makes its assault run to the front lines. This force field can be projected outwards as a weapon in extremis, although doing so depletes the crystal batteries to such a degree that the vehicle will be shorn of its protective field for a considerable amount of time. The tank's powerful anti-grav engines give it speed enough to hurtle across a battlefield in seconds, which, combined with its powerful array of heavy weapons, makes the Wave Serpent a superb asset to a war host in all theatres of war. There are many ways in which an Autarch can deploy grav tanks, and each craft world have been known to use a variety of different vehicle tactics, and even special armor formations. While all craft worlds have been known to utilize wave serpents to deliver aspect warriors to battle, none have perfected the art like the Swordwind, the war hosts of Baltan. A battery of night spinners is always formidable on a battlefield, but even more so when deployed by the ambushing forces of Autarch, the true masters of dealing long-range death to unsuspecting foes. In the largest of conflicts, all craft worlds field massed squadrons of grav tanks alongside the immense constructs known as Titans. But those who do so most often are the Eldari of Yemelok. Regardless of craft world's distinctive practices, a wise Autarch must know best when and how to field his engines of Val. Potential upgrades. Crystal Targeting Matrix. Utilizing advanced scanner technologies, this targeting matrix enables the crew of Eldar vehicles to level pinpoint fire even when moving at top speed. Holofields. Harnessing kinetic energy to shimmer and distort the vehicle's silhouette, holofields prevent the foe from targeting vulnerable areas. Spirit Stones. Some Eldar vehicles incorporate large spirit stones with a captive animus that can control the vehicle should it be disabled. Star Engines. Whilst all Eldar vehicles are swift, those about star engines are often able to move faster than the eye can follow. Vectored Engines. Vectored engines allow the pilot of an Eldar vehicle to alter its facing swiftly, placing deadly weapons or stronger armor to the fore. End quote. The grav tanks of the craft worlders. More elegant weapons for a more civilized age. I have to admit without reservation that I adore them all. I am, after all, an Eldar player. I do not think that they really need an update, but one would be nice if it were coming, and they are so utterly useful on the battlefield. For they provide devastating firepower, or a ruggedness in the transport that is simply not present in the vast majority of the other units in the Craftworld Eldar roster. I have had to retire a list due to the efficacy of multiple wave serpents and fire prisms, plus a few shining spears of course, due to its lethality. Although that was in the mid-days of the last edition, 8th. So perhaps I can get that list out again, and see if it still walks the walk as they say. But unloading your serpent shields into a large unit, and watching them evaporate, is a truly stunning and life-affirming thing to see for any Eldar player. Also, the contents being so very amusing as well, for one can put in a squad of fire dragons, or, worse still, wraith guard or wraith blades, and I can assure you, that is when the fun truly begins, and everything starts to melty melt, or choppy chop. Not all Eldar are weak. But back to the in-universe narrative and explaining of their import. For they are so needed now of all times, as the galaxy lurches slowly towards the Rana Dandra, the final battle of Eldar myth. So few Eldar survive that every single one of them is mourned far more than any human could even believe, not only due to the elevated experience of the Eldar, their heightened emotions making pain and loss so much more bitter than any human could endure, but because each loss, every single death of any Eldar, is a step closer to their yawning maw of extinction. Their vessels are much like them, physically responsive, nimble and deadly, but also, like an Eldar, they are not robust, normally. For Wraithbone is as tough as Ceramite, they say, but yet they are all built for speed, not armor, so will always be more prone to destruction upon a direct hit than any other Imperial counterpart. Yet this is the rub, the hitting in the first place. For the grav tanks of the Eldar are so swift that they can often run rings around the very aircraft of other races, can take to the clouds and pounce from the skies. Their firepower can be truly astonishing. The blasts from bright lances pierce the armor of near all present in the galaxy. Their shuriken cannons can reduce ranks of lightly armored infantry to composite parts scattered across the lands. Their shields can be projected forward to carry enemies from their feet, while systematically and immediately vaporizing them with the energies they contain. For the Falcon and other tanks use shielding that does not reflect damage so much as blur their outlines, as we have heard. But the Wave Serpents, which are the main transport of the Craftworld Eldar, project a field before them that is so powerful that it is proof from nearly every form of assault used by what they call the lesser races. And these weapons have proven enough up to this point. They have allowed the Eldar to face and defeat the Necrons during the dying days of the war in heaven. They permitted the Eldar to run rings around their erstwhile allies, the Krork, who the Eldar culled down so badly, annihilating them so much that they devolved into what today we know as the Orcs. Yes, the Eldar did that. Yet for all of the power of the Eldar vehicles, their numbers are no longer the stuff to make the powers of the galaxy shudder. Not really. For the Eldar are dying people. Even their newest and bravest faction, the Aeldari, are but a flash in the pan, a bright light in the darkness. For there are so few of them left that it is possible that their contribution may well dwarf their size, but when weighed, end up to be nothing more than tinkering around the edges of this vast disaster yet to befall the galaxy. For the Rana Dendra will be the last battle, and thus even worse than the fall of the Eldari, or the Horus Heresy or Age of Strife for the humans. The darkness is truly coming. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Grav Tanks of the Eldari, or Engines of Vol. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I'd not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It will be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.